All right, welcome to Fantasy Football Formula. I'm Chris Sable alongside John Schooner, and we will be your path to your respective championship. Now, John, we're going to start off how we always start off. How did your team do this week?
My team was amazing. We had the third most points in the league, I believe.
How many was that?
We had about 117, I believe.
All right.
But I ended up losing because of the Cardinals' defense, who scored 30 points.
He also lost by 40 points, just to
Because
clarify.
of the Cardinals' defense and Aaron Rodgers.
All right, well, my team did pretty well. I titled this week Boom or Bust because my team, if you look at it, I had A.J. Green, Greg Olsen, and Jamal Charles all putting up about 25 points. And then the rest of my team was Alfred Morris, who had 2 points, Allen Robinson, 7 points, and the flex Amari Cooper at 13. So there's no really average scoring right there. Is quite boom or bust. I won my game scoring the second most points in the league with 125.
Yeah.
In my other league, I had Joseph Randle and Greg Olsen again, so those guys pretty much made up my team. Because of Tony Romo's injury 2 weeks ago, had to start Teddy Bridgewater. That did not turn out well.
He got like 2, didn't he?
Yeah. So tough week in one league. Very good week in the other league.
My other teams always win, and my primary league doesn't always win. My other teams are so much better.
All right, so as I said before, we're titling this week Boom or Bust. We saw a lot of huge outputs from certain players, but not much average production.
Yeah.
All right, so waiver ads this week. Andy Dalton has put up monster numbers in the first few weeks. I think he's, what is he now, 6 overall for quarterbacks?
He's third in ESPN standard.
ESPN standard, he's third scoring. He's really shown that he's dropped a lot of the inconsistencies he's had in his game through the past few years. I still don't like him as a quarterback. Like, I don't like him as a
clutch quarterback.
As a quarterback in the NFL. I love him as a quarterback in fantasy football.
Got some pretty good weapons, and he has a good running game, which is not really credited all the time in fantasy football, but it can be really helpful. And in real football, too.
Also, I have Rashard Matthews, who's starting to put up very good numbers for Miami.
He's 100 yards for a touchdown every week.
16 yards in 16 receptions through the first 3 weeks. Pretty good numbers. Also around 250 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. He, I think, could be one of the best pickups of the year.
He's basically the number 2 target in Miami, but that's not saying much because they have so many weapons. But he's looking just as good as Jarvis Landry right now, and Ryan Tannehill apparently loves him about the way we've seen him on the field.
Now, I think Rashard Matthews is playing the role right now that I was hoping Devontae Parker would play later in the year. I still think Devontae Parker.
But if you watched the Dolphins game, Devontae Parker, I think, got 3 or 4 red zone looks at the very end of the game. So Devontae Parker is definitely not someone you should drop, but you got to wait him out a little bit, kind of like Nelson Aguilar and Devontae Adams.
I think Devontae Adams, just going off topic a little bit, Devontae Adams, he had a lot of upside going into the year. We're just not seeing the same production Cobb had as the number 2 receiver last year.
James Jones is killing him right now. He's kind of moved into the wide receiver 2 role.
Yeah. Also, Devontae Parker. I know it's tough. I own Devontae Parker in all of my leagues that I'm in for the most part. He's only had 4 receptions this year. Last week, he actually had 3 receptions for 46 yards. Think about it like this. Odell Beckham, obviously, different levels of talent, we think, right now, did not play the first 4 weeks and finished as the number 5 receiver last year, I think.
Yeah. That's not going to happen with Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker doesn't have enough volume. Odell Beckham had all the volume in the world.
That's true.
But
I'm saying don't
judge Devontae Parker quite yet.
Yes, exactly. So I think hold out to week 5 for Devontae Parker.
Along with some of the rookie receivers like Devontae Adams and Nelson Aguilar.
Then lastly, as my pickup, Marvin Jones put up pretty good numbers the first few weeks. He's a very good red zone target for Cincinnati. Actually, I think he could become maybe the number 2 Bengals red zone target. Eifert was targeted
Twice. Three times maybe. He dropped
twice
2.
in the end zone, dropped 2 of them.
But Andy Dalton likes Tyler Eifert.
I'm just saying his trust in him, probably no reaction, could be going down.
Yeah, but we'll see. I think next week will be important for the Bengals because if they stop throwing to Tyler Eifert, then Marvin Jones is definitely a pickup. But I think Tyler Eifert's still going to see plenty of volume in the red zone.
Then if Travis Benjamin is still available in your league,
you gotta get him
immediately.
He's going to be better when Johnny Manziel played, I think, as I said last week, but he's seeing a lot. He's seeing a lot of volume.
So, John, who are your pickups?
I have Carlos Williams of the Buffalo Bills. He's a must-have handcuff to LaShawn McCoy at this point. He's a touchdown in all 3 weeks. He's seeing his volume rise, and he's played pretty well. And Rex Ryan seems to like him. He's not necessarily a threat yet to LaShawn McCoy, but he's definitely getting there. If you have LaShawn McCoy, you need Carlos Williams. If you don't, you should still pick him up.
I think Carlos Williams is a must-add. He averaged last week almost 10 yards per carry, and that's against a pretty good run defense in Miami. Obviously, Miami's not being what we thought they were for the run defense, giving up rushing highs to both Carlos Williams and Alfred Morris on the year. But I still think his production isn't, the yards per carry is definitely not sustainable, but I think averaging 10 points, 15 points a game is definitely sustainable.
I think next week will be telling, though, for the Buffalo backfield. Because we know Rex Ryan loves to run the ball.
He knows.
But LaShawn McCoy has not been producing, so you never know with Carlos Williams.
All right, John, then I see your next waiver ad is the Titans rookie wide receiver,
Dorial Green
Beckham. I'll just start you out here.
You may.
I really liked him going into the year. You know, he was on my deep sleeper list this week. I think he was going, if 12-team leagues, he would go in round 16. But
he was a deep sleeper, and now he's a sleeper in even a 10-man. He's massive for a red zone target, and while he's not going to get maybe the yards Kendall Wright's getting or even Delaney Walker, he's the second red zone target on that team to Delaney Walker. But Dorial Green Beckham is going to see a lot of touchdowns. I think you could give him 8 touchdowns this season. Marcus Mariota appears to really like him. Mm-hmm. In a deep league, you have to have him. In a 10-man, I think you should still add Dorial Green Beckham.
One thing about Dorial Green Beckham is the reason he wasn't a mid-first round pick this year was because of off-the-field issues. The talent is there. Mm-hmm. His talent, I think, aside from Amari Cooper, 1 or 2 in the draft, I think top 3 wide receivers coming from that draft class.
Kevin White,
I think in the future. This year, though, or throughout their career, I think it will be Cooper, Kevin White, Dorial Green Beckham, and Devontae Parker. Because those are all teams with young quarterbacks.
It would do Devontae Parker some good to get off the Dolphins, if you ask me.
I think in the future, Ryan Tannehill will be a good enough quarterback to spread the ball to receivers.
But there's so many options on the Dolphins, and it's messing with them for fantasy.
I know, I'm saying in the future, Devontae Parker will be maxing in a top 5 receiver in the NFL. One thing about Dorial Green Beckham, as John touched on before, Delaney Walker, 5 inches smaller than Dorial Green Beckham.
It is true.
It is an obvious fact that rookie quarterbacks just throw to big targets in the end zone.
True.
So Delaney Walker owners don't overreact too much, but now that Mariota seemed to find
Dorial Green Beckham.
DGB.
Now, Delaney Walker had 68 yards receiving, and we also saw him get a lot of receiving yards last season. Delaney Walker's still a guy I really like. I've liked him for a really long time. He's big. Dorial Green Beckham is really tall, but Delaney Walker's a big guy, and they're both going to be good red zone targets as Mariota is actually figuring out how to throw the ball very well in the NFL.
All right, so guys whose value has gone up for me the past week. AJ Green, obviously, we knew the talent was there. I think talent-wise, just wide receiver-wise in the NFL, he's 4th best after Brown, Bryan, and Julio Jones. Latavius Murray, who you love and I also really have liked throughout the past few weeks. John, how about you?
I have Joseph Randle, as I kind of stated last week. That's mostly because of his offensive line. I mean, obviously he exploded last week, but I see him not maybe getting 3 touchdowns, but he's going to get touchdowns. And the only thing about Joseph Randle has been the volume has not quite been what we expected, but that's a really good offensive line he's running behind. I like Joseph Randle going forward.
Yeah, and one thing about Joseph Randle, he had 14 carries, so he still hasn't gotten over 20 carries this year, which is surprising.
Very
seeing
surprising.
DeMarco Murray being ran into the ground.
Now,
one thing I think about that is the Cowboys. First of all, Bill O'Callahan, their offensive line coach, is gone, but the Cowboys recognize that Joseph Randle could be the running back of the future, and they don't want to jeopardize his career by running him into the ground as a very young, talented running back, like they do with DeMarco Murray.
Because Joseph Randle is probably their most talented offensive threat right now. They could be very prone to just giving him 30 carries a game, which I said could get him injured. But especially as the Cowboys are injured, he's looking pretty good.
The volume should go up.
It should, and he could be really good when they get healthy again, adding the passing attack back. That team could be really good in a couple weeks when everybody comes back.
All right, John, so now tell me, who do you think value has gone down because of the past few weeks?
I think it's Andre Johnson. He's really losing a lot of volume to Dante Moncrief. He's lost basically all of his speed.
He looks old.
He does. He looks old on the field watching the games, and he's just not he's not a solid NFL wideout like we thought he was going to be. It might do the Colts better to give him some shorter routes, but he looks old. He's not getting the volume. Dante Moncrief, if you can get him, you want him. Andre Johnson, trade him while you can because he's really going down in my
Andre
book.
Johnson's put up 4 points this entire season.
He has 7
Only
receptions
7 receptions
on the season.
50 receiving yards. One thing for this year, John, guess what Andre Johnson's power ranking is? 100. That's bad.
That's really bad considering how high he rose in drafts to a lot, if you notice.
Yeah, like 6th round or 5th round.
He was really low. He was a 10th round guy that maybe I was targeting. And then ESPN's rankings, he went way up.
Yeah.
And I decided, I'm not going to take him that high because he just doesn't have NFL speed anymore. He can't blow by a fast corner.
He didn't have the upside that a guy like Amari Cooper would have had in the draft. All right, so John, a guy that I might get some hate for this, Calvin Johnson. The volume has been there the past 2 weeks with 18 receptions. I don't know if I trust him. He hasn't put up over 100 receiving yards this year. He's only had 1 touchdown, and throughout the entire season, 100
Here's my
receiving
problem
yards.
with Calvin Johnson. I love his talent. I think he's one of the most talented receivers in the league, but the Lions' run game is non-existent.
Dismal.
Non-existent.
Very dismal.
And Golden Tate hasn't shown us really much at all this season.
At all.
Defenses are just saying, the guy who's not going to beat me is Calvin Johnson. And he's not beating them because they're putting so much effort into him. Until that running game can do anything, Calvin Johnson is going to be in for a tough time, even with the ridiculous talent he has.
Yeah. So, my last one, C.J. Anderson. John, C.J. Anderson's gotten 10 points, but not in the past week throughout the entire year. That's not good. Obviously, C.J. Anderson would be on this list for just about everyone. But if you have him, I don't know what to do with him, honestly. I would hope you drafted just a good running back in 7th, 8th round like you did, John. Mm-hmm. But if you don't, his trade value is just so low. I don't know if I would give him up.
Here's what I think about C.J. Anderson. You keep him because he still has a chance. People think that he's all gone. This is not just because he's on my team. C.J. Anderson, on some of his carries, you can kind of see that his talent is still there.
Yeah.
And what he can do is still there. Their offensive line has been awful. And their passing game has not been amazing. That's part of what made C.J. Anderson was so good last year, is because they weren't expecting him. So, if people start forgetting about C.J. Anderson, that's when I think he really has a chance. Keep him because his trade value is so low. I'm not telling you to start him, but C.J. Anderson's definitely somebody I think you should still keep. I think you keep him and you hope for the best with C.J. Anderson.
All right, so now we got some over/under or trade talk. Actually, my fault. John, would you trade Matt Forte and Keenan Allen for Randle Cobb and Mark Ingram?
I would, because Mark Ingram, as we've said before, I know you don't like him, he gets lots of touchdowns. Randle Cobb is looking really good. James Jones is taking away some of those red zone targets, but as we saw last week, Aaron Rodgers still loves Randle Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has Jordy Nelson-like upside from last year, if not even more, because of the superior speed he has.
All right, so also on this point, I don't think I would do that trade. Forte is looking great this year. I will admit I thought he was going to bust, but he's playing really well. Keenan Allen, he bounced back. His volume was just not there week 2, but in week 1 he obviously got 17 targets. Week 3 he got 12 receptions. That's almost 30 receptions through the first 3
I think the thing about Keenan Allen right now is the looming return of Antonio Gates. Everybody in football knows that Antonio Gates is Phillip Rivers' favorite target. If the targets don't go down too much for Keenan Allen, you want him because he's been so good and he's actually really talented. But Antonio Gates is the red zone target for Phillip Rivers. He's big. And it's going to be tough. If Keenan Allen, I think if you have Keenan Allen or you're trying to trade for him, you got to watch when Antonio Gates comes back. If he can still get that volume or even close to it, I really like Keenan Allen still going forward.
All right, so John, one more. To be clear, you would do that trade. I would not.
I would.
Would you give up Antonio Brown and Arian Foster and get Jamal Charles and Brandon Marshall?
I wouldn't, because Antonio Brown is an easy money top 3 wide receiver right now.
Well, don't forget Brown without Ben Roethlisberger for how much? 6 to 8 weeks? 6 weeks, I think.
4 to 6.
It's supposed to be. The Steelers said it would be 6 weeks.
Oh, they brought it up.
I think he's wide receiver wise above him throughout the rest those 6 weeks.
I definitely like Julio Jones and some of the other guys.
I think Julio Jones is above him. AJ Green.
No.
I say yes above him.
Maybe. I still have to see.
Randle Cobb close.
Yeah.
I don't know. Marshall's production has actually been pretty good this year.
Marshall's production has been really good considering how late he was in drafts and
how old he
and
was.
The expectations for him. But the one thing, I really like Arian Foster this season, just because you look at how well Alfred Blue did last week. He was really good. And Arian Foster, everybody knows he's so good.
Yeah.
Arian Foster's really good. I think he has Jamal Charles-like upside, just like Jamal Charles does get so much volume in the receiving game, which Arian Foster does not necessarily get. But I would keep Antonio and Arian Foster or trade for him.
I would trade for Brandon Marshall and Jamal Charles. And here's why. Jamal Charles, running back, is the riskiest position in the NFL. When you get draft a wide receiver in the top 10, usually 8 of them will finish in the top 10 by the end of the season,
true.
or 7 of them. When you draft running backs, we're seeing already, out of the top 10 running backs, maybe 4 will finish in the top 10.
But I think we've seen with Arian Foster over a while.
I think
the only thing is the injury
getting
risk.
Jamal Charles and Brandon Marshall, who's put up at least 100 yards and a touchdown in every single game. He's put up 3 touchdowns, actually. I would do that deal.
But
obviously,
you need a good wide receiver 2 to do that. So
obviously,
that,
we don't know who.
Yeah, exactly.
Is on
Obviously, we
this
don't
guy's
know. So, but that's kind of a tough one.
All right, so his wide receivers right now, I think if you look at his team right here, his wide receivers are Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, running backs Arian Foster, Carlos Hyde.
I think if you have Odell Beckham, that's
do the deal.
That's
do the
a little
deal.
bit better.
Do the deal.
But I still like Antonio Brown even with Mike Vick. I think that'll even open up the running game. I think Le'Veon Bell owners should be pretty happy with Michael Vick at quarterback, but
I don't know about that.
It'll be good to see. I would not trade away Antonio Brown.
All right, so now for over/under. Joseph Randle is going to be the subject of this. Would you rather have Joseph Randle or Lamar Miller?
Joseph Randle.
Same here. Joseph Randle, Latavius Murray.
Latavius Murray.
That's close.
Latavius Murray's volume is off the chart, and
they're actually the 4 and 5 running backs right now.
Latavius Murray's Latavius Murray.
I say do it.
I like Latavius Murray.
I like Latavius. Give me Latavius. Joseph Randle, Jeremy Hill.
That's a really tough one.
Randle for me.
I'm leaning towards Randle because, as I've always said, Jeremy Hill's job security is tiny considering how well Gio Bernard has been doing.
Yeah.
That's a really tough. That's kind of a tough one for me because.
And Randle's been good when he not
does.
Great, but he's been.
And I think we talked about this earlier.
As
Joseph
running back,
Randle, 20 carries are going to come. Jeremy Hill, we don't even know if
the 20 carries will go. I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think 15 touches maybe are guaranteed for Jeremy Hill because he could get a catch or two, but Gio Bernard has played well.
So last one, Joseph Randle, Carlos Hyde. This is the toughest one in my opinion.
I agree because the San Francisco offense is so bad. Joseph Randle has been really good. Carlos Hyde has a lot of volume.
Not too much.
But we saw 26 in the first game.
We saw 26 in the first game when they blew Minnesota out. Then the next two games against the Cardinals, 47-7. All right, so basically what happened for me in my 8-team league, I had Carlos Hyde left, and I was up by 12 or 6.
Yeah.
And the other guy had Kelsey and Mason Crosby. So I'm like, all right, I just need Hyde to get a few carries. First two offensive plays of the game, Colin Kaepernick throws pick sixes. That's just Carlos Hyde's not going to get volume if you throw two pick sixes in the first two games. You're down 14 before he gets a carry.
That's what I'm going to say. That's why I'm going to say Randle because
I'm going to go Randle too here.
Randle, the Cowboys they like Joseph Randle. They do. And the problem with the 49ers, I love Carlos Hyde's talent, but the carries are going to go away. The reason he got 26 carries is because
they blew
they were destroying Minnesota.
All right, one thing about
about
Hyde, he's playing Green Bay, New York, Baltimore, Seattle, St. Louis.
The San Francisco can't win any game.
That is going to be a rough patch for Carlos Hyde.
I would sell high on him right now. Bad. San Francisco was just so awful that you can't trust any of the players.
One more. T.Y. Hilton is going to be our subject. T.Y. Hilton or Mike Evans?
T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton, Alshon Jeffrey.
T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton, A.J. Green.
That's not hard, A.J. Green.
A.J. Yeah. T.Y. Hilton, Julian Edelman.
T.Y. Hilton.
I know
you love Edelman.
Give me Edelman. You know why I like Edelman? Because he's a dog. He's scrappy. He's scrappy,
but he's not going to get any red zone targets. None.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a chance to break off a big play.
One thing, Edelman, you can trust him to get 10 points game by game.
You can't. I had him last year. You can't trust him to get 10 points every game.
He wasn't as much of a target.
He's good. You want T.Y. Hilton because T.Y. Hilton is the surefire number one. As we talked about, Andre Johnson, no advancements. Dante Moncrief is good, not a wide receiver one. Julian Edelman is basically the wide receiver 2 on that team because Rob Gronkowski is so good. Edelman is good. You want T.Y. Hilton over Julian Edelman.
It's tough. Edelman, through the first 3 games this year, has 42 targets. To give you an idea of what that was last year, he had 28.
Exactly, but
I just think he's more of a threat in this year's offense than last year's offense.
It is true. He's definitely more of a threat this year.
He has more targets in these first 3 weeks than he does throughout his entire any 3-game stretch of his career.
Everyone loves T.Y. Hilton.
I think give me T.Y. Give me T.Y.
T.Y.'s good.
T.Y. or Cobb?
Randall Cobb, not even close.
Yeah,
Randall Cobb,
I think I would go Cobb too.
The only thing is James Jones, and last year Randall Cobb just obliterated any notion that James Jones was painting into his workload.
All right, so real quick, who I like more now, Amari Cooper. Just so much talent there. We're seeing him
Cooper.
After a dismal first week. We're seeing him getting targets nowadays. I think he's a wide receiver 2, easy.
Easy wide receiver 2.
Could
be a wide receiver 1
I think
by
the
end of the year.
Wide receiver 1.
Could be. He's really good.
All right, Eddie Lacy. I think just injuries. He came back, played pretty well. Shared carries with James Starks, but obviously that's just because he's getting back into the swing of things. And Julian Edelman, as I talked about before.
A couple guys I really didn't like, but now I do like. I didn't like DeAndre Hopkins. He's really talented. He's been really good. I like DeAndre Hopkins. LeGarrette Blount's really improved in my book, even though I hate Patriots running backs. But LeGarrette Blount is getting lots of goal line carries. and he's really big. He's a perfect garbage time running back. And James Jones, I wasn't very high on James Jones, but he's an easy flex play at this point because of the touchdowns he's getting. Even with wide receiver 2 upside, I kind of like James Jones now. Don't buy. Try to buy low on him, but I would keep him because you can't get too much for him as a wide receiver 2.
All right, so that's the end of our fantasy football segment. Sorry, you fantasy listeners. Now we're going to move towards the Redskins segment.
This is my favorite part. I love trashing on the Redskins.
All right, so we'll take a real quick break from a word from just some people, and I'll get back to you just in a moment. All right, welcome back to Fantasy Football Formula. Chris Abel alongside John Schooner for your Redskins segment of the show. John, I'm dedicating this entire segment to a rant.
Let me just tell you, viewers, if you like somebody who's in a really bad mood about something, listen right now because he's going to go off.
All right, so Alfred Morris. Let me give you a few facts on Alfred Morris, otherwise known as the Butler.
He's a big
Alfred Morris
fan.
has 4,000 rushing yards through his first 3 seasons. That's a lot. You know, out of the top 20 active rushers in the NFL, guess how many had 4,000 rushing yards through their first 3 seasons? 2. John, how many?
Just 2.
2. Chris Johnson and Adrian Peterson. Who? The GOAT? Yes, the GOAT.
CJ, 2K, and AP, two of the best running backs.
2 of the best running backs in our generation. Obviously, Chris Johnson has died off recently.
But Chris Johnson is one
are
of the
the only ones
backs
to put up numbers similar to Alfred Morris through their first 3 seasons. Let me give you some names of running backs who haven't done that. Marshawn Lynch, beast mode. Frank Gore, the most consistent running back in so long. Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, Le'Veon Bell, Lamar Miller, Fred Jackson, Matt Forte, D'Angelo Williams, Jamal Charles, LaShawn McCoy, Arian Foster, DeMarco Murray, Fred Jackson, and Ray Rice. Name another running back that's good and has done that. All right, out of the top 10 rushing leaders in the NFL, as I said before, 2 out of the top 10 have put up consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for 3 years. For their first 3 years, John. Alfred Morris, Chris Johnson, and again, Adrian Peterson. The GOAT. The GOAT. So
those are 3 pretty good
you're
guys.
saying you're ditching the guy that's been for your team, hasn't been in the media, trashing the team, has stayed quiet, has put up the best weight room numbers for the entire freaking team, has been on like the lowest gosh darn contract in the entire NFL, and you're ditching him after putting up 1 bad game for a 3rd round pick that's fumbled twice in his first 30 carries? Are you kidding me?
Alfred Morris didn't even have a bad game. That's what I think is not even Alfred Morris's fault. It's they're falling in love with some speed from their 3rd round pick, and it's ridiculous.
Matt Jones, yes, might be more talented. He's faster than Alfred Morris.
Yeah, but the ball is like butter in his hands.
The ball's like butter in his hands. Also, against New York, he didn't even put up that great numbers.
He didn't.
Averaged 3 yards per carry. Alfred Morris basically averaged that too, and you gave Matt Jones more chances to run the ball.
They ditched Alfred Morris because he didn't get 100 yards on his first 2
Jay
carries.
Gruden, if you're listening to this, which I know you aren't, but if in some way you do listen to this, play Alfred Morris. I don't know how other way to say it. Against the Seahawks in 2012, we ditched the run game. Morris got 14 carries, even though he was averaging 5 yards per carries. Look how that turned out. Your franchise quarterback is done. Done.
The Redskins are a team that needs to run the football, and fumbling every possession with Matt Jones is not going to help. Alfred Morris is the running back built for that team, and it's just they're not using
Even
him.
Matt Jones, if you give him 15 yards per carry and you get 15 carries a game, and you give Alfred Morris 20 carries a game, I don't care. Just run the gosh darn ball. In the first 2 games, the Redskins should have won against Miami. That was special team issues, but the offense looked very good. The defense looked very good. If you run the ball 30 times a game or 40 times a game, the Redskins will compete. If the run game isn't there at first, that's okay.
They
just keep running. It will pan out.
Running the football is about patience, and they've been so quick to throw the ball, a lot like the Dolphins, who we've compared them to, and their passing game is not that great. Their number one receiver's injured, and their other, besides Jordan Reed, their receivers aren't that great. They have two very talented running backs who they're just not utilizing.
I understand that the Redskins went down early in the first quarter, but still.
You got to stick to your team. You got to stick to your
the game plan. And look, who scored the first 2 touchdowns for the team in week 2 against the Rams, one of the best run defenses in the NFL? They're 2 running backs. Yes, they won't put up 10 yards per carry, or quarterback's going to throw for 10 yards per completion.
They're not going to do what they did against the Rams. That was surreal. This team is built to run the football.
Honestly, John, I think the Redskins could put up 40 carries a game, give me 160, 170 yards for them. 200 yards.
They're built to run the football. Their offensive line looks good. I mean, we've talked about it. Their offensive line is so much better than it was last year, and they're ditching the run. Their coach, Jay Gruden, said they need to keep the ball on the ground, and they're not doing it.
So, let me give you a little extra thing to make you think about Alfred Morris. He's the youngest running back in the top 30 to hit 3,000 yards. He's 26, and he's the only running back in the top 30 that's 26. He's 26, John. He's 26 years old, and you're trashing his career.
So much potential.
For a third round pick. He's still averaging 4 yards per carry this year, first of all. So it's not like he's just playing complete.
And Alfred Morris, one thing that we're forgetting is he holds on to the ball.
He's fumbled throughout his entire career 11 times on about 1,000 touches. That's 1% of touches. Matt Jones, 5% of his touches. So you're telling me you give Matt Jones 20 carries a game, he's going to fumble. You give Alfred Morris 20 carries a game for 5 games, he's going to fumble once.
Maybe. Not even necessarily. He holds onto the ball better than most running backs I've seen in the league. And he's just better than Matt Jones. He is. He's proven himself. I think
if you want a bell cow running back, you want it to be Morris. You want Jones to change up pace like he was supposed to be.
Jones is what is going to be great in the role he was in week 2. Exactly. Alfred Morris has to be the one to start it. Matt Jones is going to feed off Alfred Morris. Alfred Morris can't feed off Matt Jones.
And Alfred Morris has passed 300 carries. He's fumbled the ball twice. Last thing on Alfred Morris, and then I'll probably rant a little bit longer just about who knows what. He has the most consecutive games started for a running back in the NFL. This week, he will be starting, as Jay Gruden said in the press conference on Sunday. Marshawn Lynch, who is tied with him, will be missing. He'll be missing week 4?
I believe so.
Alfred Morris is consistent. He's what you want out of a bell cow running back. He just does not get injured. Is in his entire college and NFL career spanning 8 years now, he's missed 1 quarter due to concussion. He was back the next week. I don't understand why you would... For you fantasy owners of Alfred Morris, be scared. Not for Alfred Morris's talent, but for Jay Gruden's ignorance as a quarterback. And not as a quarterback, as an NFL coach. Jay Gruden, please listen to me. I know you won't, but please. I'll tell you what, being a DC sports fan is the most frustrating thing you can be. You have a franchise player getting choked out by some whole closer. One thing, just completely unrelated to football. Jonathan Papelbon, who are you?
Get out!
Get out of here. Mike Rizzo.
Stay off of Bryce.
What are you thinking for Mike Rizzo? Drew Storen this year has an ERA of 6 in the 8th inning. His ERA in the closing is 1.4.
He doesn't like throwing in the 8th inning. We all know it. Jonathan Papelbon, get out of DC.
Mike Rizzo.
No one wants you. Get off the MVP right now.
Mike Rizzo made this trade, so it would be we don't have to worry about it in the playoffs now. Drew Storen won't blow it. Guess what? We're not in the playoffs.
Because our closer was toxic to our MVP.
All right, so that's it for now.
We had to rant on that one a little bit.
This week, just do what I tell you. I'll upload the start sit on like Sunday morning or late Saturday. I will see you later. Follow me at Sable with Fantasy Talk on Twitter, John Schooner at
J.Scoons.
J.Scoons.
On Instagram, John_Schooner on Twitter.
All right. For Chris Sable and John Schooner, this is Fantasy Football Formula. See ya!